What is religion? In this video, we will briefly discuss the definition and characteristics of religion. Etymologically speaking, the term religion comes from the two Latin words re, which means again, and lig, which means join or connect. Thus, the common translation of the term religion is to join again or to reconnect. For this reason, according to Michael Molloy, the term religion suggests the joining of our human world to the sacred world. This is in line with Judith Huxley's definition of religion as a way of life founded upon the apprehension of sacredness in existence. According to Molloy, in classical Latin, religio meant awe for the gods and concern for proper ritual. However, it must be noted that it was the Western world that popularized the term religion. For this reason, according to Molloy, it is not appropriate to apply the term religion across cultures. Thus, Molloy suggests that using the term spiritual path is a more fitting designation to refer to other religious systems. Traditionally, however, scholars define religion as a system of beliefs that involves the worship of a god or gods, prayer, ritual, and a moral code. It must be noted, however, that this definition may not necessarily apply to other religions and may be insufficient for some scholars. So, instead of defining religion, which means putting a limit to the term religion, because in fact, definition comes from the Latin word definere, which means to set limits of something, it is much safer to describe it in our attempt to make sense of what it really is. Now, the best way to describe religion is to articulate its key elements or characteristics. Foremost of these key elements is belief system. When we say belief system, we are specifically referring to the worldview of a particular group of people. Hence, a belief system refers to a fairly complete and systematic interpretation of the world or universe and the human person's place and role in it. This explains why in any kind of religion, there is always the dynamic relationship between the world and humans. Think, for example, of how Taoism highly values nature, or how the adherents of Zoroastrianism worship the sun. The second important element of religion is community. For sure, a religion always involves a group of people who showed the same belief system and practiced the ideals. Needless to say, a certain religion cannot be called religion in the strict sense of the word if it doesn't have a community of believers. As a matter of fact, some religions, such as Islam and Protestantism, are quite aggressive in expanding its membership. The third is ritual. As we can see, religions always have enacted beliefs which are made real through ceremonies. For example, the Roman Catholics always start their prayer with the sign of the cross. The Muslims, on the other hand, kneel and place their forehead on the ground as a sign of their submission to God. For the Muslims, in prostration, that is, the act of kneeling and placing their forehead on the ground, they felt nearest to God. Fourth is ethics. As we may already know, ethics is a major branch of philosophy which deals with the morality, that is, the rightness or wrongness of a human act. Hence, ethics deals with the rules of human behavior. In religion, ethics has to be established. In other words, there should be rules of human behavior that govern the actions of the community of believers. For instance, for the adherents of the Christian denomination Jehovah's Witnesses, blood transfusion is always wrong. Or in Christianity in general, polygamy is absolutely wrong. but in Islam, the practice of polygamy is generally viewed as morally right. This indeed explains why we have what we call Buddhist ethics, Christian ethics, or Confucian ethics. It is also important to note that for most religions, these particular ethics that govern the members' actions are often viewed as having been revealed from a supernatural realm, although in some cases it can also be viewed as socially generated guidelines. Consider, for example, the 10 Commandments that God revealed to Moses at the Mount Sinai. The fifth element of religion is the centrality of myths. As we may notice, every religion has its own story, such as the major events in the life of Hindu god Krishna, the enlightenment story of the Buddha, the exodus of the Israelites from oppression in Egypt, the death and resurrection of Jesus, or Muhammad's escape from Mecca to Medina. Please note, however, that the use of the term myth here is different from the common usage and understanding of the term. From the Greek word mythos, which means story, or I invent a story, myth is therefore considered as a narrative. The invention of a story doesn't have to be viewed merely as a product of one's imagination. The invention of the story is intended to project a reality. Indeed, a myth is a narrative of the coming to be of that particular reality. For instance, the Genesis story of creation is a myth because it is a narrative or a story which tries to tell how God created humans and the world. So in this way, the death and resurrection of Jesus, for example, can be considered as a myth. That is, it is an account that tries to tell the story of how Jesus died and how he overcomes death so humanity may be saved. The sixth characteristic or element of religion is emotional experience. As is well known, religions are always characterized by emotional experiences, such as dread, guilt, awe, mystery, devotion, conversion, liberation, ecstasy, bliss, and inner peace. Think, for example, of the conversion of St. Paul, or of the emotional experience of a Buddhist monk who attains enlightenment. Viewed from the vantage point of religion, this emotional experience is always in connection with a soul joined to God. Seventh is material expression. As we have observed, religions make use of an astonishing variety of physical elements, such as statues, paintings, musical composition, ritual objects, flowers, incense, clothing, architecture, and specifications. Consider, for example, how common hymns and songs are to all religions. Think as well of the role that incense play in both the Buddhist and Taoist traditions, or how elaborate the clothing of some priests and bishops in the Roman Catholic Church. Eighth and last is sacredness. As is well known, all religions are concerned with the deepest level of reality. And for most religions, the core or origin of everything is always viewed as sacred or mysterious. Hence, religion is always characterized by the element of sacredness in contradistinction to the ordinary. This explains why religious ceremonies deliberately use unique language, clothing, and architecture. Indeed, sacredness is one of the most important, if not the most important elements of religion. In fact, the famous French sociologist Émile Durkheim, considered by many scholars as the father of social science, and whose group called L'Année Sociologique made major contributions to the study of religion, viewed the difference between the sacred and the profane as the essence of religion. In fact, for Durkheim, religion, is a unified system of beliefs and practices relative to sacred things. That is to say, things set apart and forbidden.